Right.
James Hetfield has never written better lyrics than what I'm hearing on 72 Seasons. And everybody who's covering that album is going, yeah, it sounds really good because I really like the guitar here. And nobody's talking about the lyrics. You know, and it's like, no, this is, there's some damn good thought-provoking lyrics on that album. And on Rock Flute.
Yeah, he dug really deep on this one. And, you know, he's gone
Yes,
through
he
a
did.
lot. He's gone through his share of stuff in recent years. But the one thing, too, I'll give Metallica credit is that, and I was telling a friend of this, you know, kind of doing my review of the album, is that these guys could easily just rest on their laurels. They could have done a few years ago, they could have done an anniversary tour for the Black Album.
Exactly.
Fine, made millions of dollars. These guys have continued to be creative. Like the album or not, I give them, you know, points just for that. But as a bonus, the music is good. I mean, I know people still will always be hung up on, you know, Ride Lightning and Master of Puppets and all that stuff. This is a great rock album. 72 Seasons. It's nothing new. They're not rewriting the rule book or whatever, but they don't have to. It's just a great, solid Metallica album.
I think it's the lyrics that bring it up to anything they've done. Okay, now I know early Metallica fans, you know, the Black Album killed them, right? Well, guess what? I wasn't interested in them until the Black Album. I freely admit that. All right? I had heard their stuff and it was too thrashy, and I've always said how I got started in the music anyway. I was a Beatle fan, and I found it uncomfortable to go over to Led Zeppelin, right? I think Metallica was that one level that until the Black Album came out. See, they learned to do heavy metal and write songs on that album.
I agree with you 100%. That is my favorite album.
Yeah.
Enter the Sandman, the Unforgiven, and those songs are the ones we're talking about here.
It has melody.
That has melody to it. Are just
and remember those years? We're talking, you know, the Black Album by Metallica and Achtung Baby by U2.
Early 90s.
Wasn't that it? And then all of the Seattle bands, wasn't that exciting? I thought, rock can't die, because I've seen it almost die several times, you know? We saw it with the 50s guys kind of, and the Beatles saving us. Then we saw the Beatles die and things dying down, and some people say punk saved us. I say the police saved us despite punk. Unfortunately, we haven't had a resurgence since grunge, and we need it badly. Yeah,
that was the last great era for, like, you know,
that was the last great subgenre. Yeah,
right. And part of the problem is since then, the subgenres have broken, and heavy metal is more to blame for this than almost any subgenre of rock, as there are subgenres. Well, I like heavy death metal thrash on Thursdays, bands from Norway, you know, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, give me a break. You know,
also, the strange thing is things kind of in a weird way also reverted back to almost like the pre-60s aesthetic of like a Tin Pan Alley producer-centric approach.
Good point. I did a video on this, and then I'll just let Bruce take it from here, on how it's one of my biggest videos, is why today's music sucks, with a title like that.
I remember that one. I like that.
Yeah. And in it, I talk about several dial-up writers. And Bruce, I'd like you to kind of conclude what you were talking about, because I agree with you 100% on this.
Yeah, it's a strange era. I feel like, you know, from 2000 on, you know, like you had the grunge era, and like everything kind of reverted back to pop. But, you know, it also kind of, you know, we had streaming, and there were a lot of factors as to why music isn't the same. But what we started getting was more of an influx, again, of pop stars, with manufactured pop stars. A lot of people not writing their own material, so it's back to almost like a Tin Pan Alley approach of like a few writers, like you said, Michael, dominating this whole thing. And then it's more of a producer's medium rather than an artist's medium anymore, as far as what's mainstream. You're always going to have rock as like always, you know, as a subgenre, or always in the shadows, and, you know, who knows when it'll cycle back. But as far as what's in it, we've kind of gone full circle back to like a pre-60s, pre-progressive rock, pre-66 onward kind of era. I would say.
Yes.
I mean, I would agree, wouldn't you, Michael?
No, I think you've hit it. In the 50s, we had the Brill Building. We had Carole King, her husband, and about 15 to 25 other writers, all writing on the same floor. And it went out to Paul Anka. It went out to whoever, and blah, 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 blah. And it was cookie cutter. And that's why the only great rock and roll acts, for the most part, there were a few exceptions, were the black rock and rollers, right? Yeah. Because Little Richard was writing his stuff. Chuck Berry was writing his stuff. And yet you look at Metallica, who are playing the same kind of they're playing even bigger venues, but big venues, right? And they see the need, and James Hetfield digging into his soul for the story on each of those songs and coming up somehow with a concept, a bare-ass concept. See, everybody says he's a panty waist. When they did some kind of a monster, I need to see my therapist at 6 o'clock. Whatever gets you through the fucking night, James, because you know what? You're still writing, you're still producing, you're still doing what you need to do. All right? And that's what is missing with the Taylor Swifts and everything. They're not writing anything consequential.